Ken Shellito. Title of his speech is Making Mistakes One Word at a Time. Making Mistakes One Word at a Time, Ken Shellito.
I'd like to take you back when I was 6 years old. We can go that far. 6 years old, and that's when I first started making mistakes. That I can remember. I mean, I probably made more than that. I can remember at 6. And the time, when I was 6 years old, I have to tell you, I had a friend, Don. It's an important part of his story. Don, he was bigger than me. He's a head taller than me. He was 1 year older than I was. He could run faster, and he was smarter, and he was going to become a lawyer. So what happened, my first mistake is that we lived in a town where it was small town, and it was rather poor. It was during the Depression, coming out of the Depression before World War II. So we were poor, no kidding about that. But I was lucky to live there, to live in that poor time, and to grow up in a poor time. You miss so much more if you're rich. But when you're poor, everything's fun. But I started here with this guy. People had a garden, and we didn't ask them if we could go to the garden and pick their cabbage. But it seemed like that's all right, because in those times we shared everything. We did. So when in the garden, Donnie and I were there. We were picking cabbage, and the lady that owned the garden, she comes over and she starts hollering at us. She said, "Get out of my garden, you hoodlums! You hoodlums!" Wait a minute, Donnie, what's hoodlum? He said, "Well, hoodlum." He said, "I don't know exactly what it is." He said, "But I think we could sue." So anyways, he said, "But I'll check this out first." So he went and talked to his uncle, who was a lawyer. He told the story, and he came back. He says, and he called me Big Ken because I was little. And he says, he did that too. But he says, "You know what? We don't have a case here." He said, "Because first of all," he said, "we trespassed." That's another new word for it. We trespassed, and he said, "And we don't." As we trespassed, he said, "Not only that," he said, "but we had a conversion." A conversion? Donnie, what's a conversion now? This is something else going on here. He said, "Yeah, conversion's a fancy word for stealing." He said, "So first of all, you trespassed, and then you stole, and she called you a hoodlum." Well, she had a right to call us a hoodlum, because that's what we were. If you're a hoodlum like that, that's pretty hard for a kid 6 years old to be called a hoodlum already. And so I thought it was like carrying an H on your like you went around with an H on there. But nobody seemed to care that we were hoodlums, because this went on for a couple of years, and nobody mentioned it again, that we were hoodlums. So, but anyways, things were going on now. Things from a couple of years later now, things are getting kind of serious because I got a BB gun.
No.
And yeah, and it was not even a Red Ryder; it was a knockoff. It didn't have any. It didn't have any things. You couldn't shoot BBs out of it, but you could cock it and go boom. and that was okay. Because somehow I still don't know where I got the inside with that BB gun. But I got the inside, and I had it there and put it in there. And now is when I had to retain my lawyer, because things were going pretty bad then. I was shooting some cans. When you're shooting cans, BBs bounce off and go every which way. And my dad called me in one time. He had his company come over. He said, "Come on in, Ken. I want to introduce you to some friends of mine." And he said, don't bring that gun in. Don't bring it. I said, "Well, it's okay. It's not loaded." And he said, I'll show you. Bang! And the BBs are going around the room like this, pretty close. And everybody then was hopping up and down. But the BBs were high enough. They weren't going to hit them anyways, but they didn't know that. So they were moving around. And so, you know, I began to learn another word. It was called ricochet. So my vocabulary was starting to, you know, enlarge somewhat from hoodlum to ricochet, you know, the BB. So the whole thing was going along just fine. And then something really, truly did seriously happen. The paper boy would deliver the papers. I'd help him deliver papers to my house, to the street, you know, and every once in a while, when he had a little bit extra money, he'd buy me a Coke. And he wanted it, and then he saw my BB gun, and he wanted that BB gun. He said, I'll pay you. He said, what I got is I've got a wristwatch here. He says, I'll trade this wristwatch for your BB gun. You know, I was a small businessman too, you know, I wasn't very big. But I thought, you know, it was really, that's a pretty good trade. This BB gun, you know, knockoff as it was, and that wristwatch, it even glowed in the dark. You know? And my dad doesn't have a wristwatch. So I'll just trade this BB gun. It was a good exchange, I thought. 2 days later, I was in school, I was in 6th grade now, in school, and all of a sudden, the superintendent calls me over. I said, the superintendent, you know, the kids don't go to the superintendent's office unless there's really something serious going on. So I went over and saw the superintendent, and I walked into the room, and there was a guy, sheriff. He was sitting with his gun out here, and sitting there, and he says, I want you for fencing jewelry. Oh, shoot. Another word I don't understand. These fencing jewelry type of thing. He said, yeah, and you're going to have to come with me down to the Justice of the Peace. And there's a meeting down there now, just waiting for me to come. And I saw movies where they put people in jail for, you know, innocent people. I think this is probably what's happening to me. I'm going to go to jail. But I went in, and the Justice of the Peace was behind the barber shop. And it was just a small table there. But I think there was 5,000 people there. I counted them, and there was the mother and the father, the sheriff, the mayor, and there was one other person, so I guess it wasn't 5,000. They went in and Meckus was the boy, he was there too. He said, no, he didn't help me steal this equipment, or this jewelry. And the guy said, well, okay. And then the sheriff came out, he said, you know, that was a terrible deal you made. He said, you knew there was something wrong if you trade your BB gun for a watch. I said, yeah, I do that. I said, but I'd like to have my gun back. And he said, well, I don't know how you get your gun back. We don't know where it's at. So I called Donnie. I said, Donnie, look what happened to me. And Donnie said, that's not right. He said, that's a case we should take that. We could probably have to go to the Supreme Court with that. So that was my lawyer's advice. So I haven't really grown very far yet. So, but my time is running out, and it's been a pleasure talking with all of you. And I would like to say that there's words that's coming into your life every day, and those words have a change in your life. It's a life-changing thing.
1 minute for the judges, please.
Humorous Speech Contest. We will only announce the first place winner since there were 3 competing. The suspense is building. I'm just going to let it well up for just another second. Thank you. Our first place for Humorous Speech Contest is Brian McGowan.